I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Jan Russell, who is doing a very informative presentation this afternoon entitled Rocking the Crone, Mindful Aging for Women. Definitely one that I'm looking forward to. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, Jan, because I'm really looking forward to this.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, I can see some faces on the screen and not all, so I'm just going to see if I can change that. I'm sure I can. Yes, I can see there is one person who I already know there and haven't seen for ages, so I'm just going to give a big wave to Kate Evans.
Hi.
And there are people I don't know, which is lovely. So hello everybody here. I'm looking forward to this session too. So this session has come about really because I'm an NLP trainer, accredited by ANLP, and I've been working using NLP since 1994. So I'm quite an old crone. I'm a feisty old crone myself. And during pandemic, it became clear to me, I was on a meditation app that is global through the work of my daughter. And it became clear to me there were lots of women who were really quite lonely and struggling. And I work with everybody. I work cross-culturally, and I've always had areas where I've worked exclusively with women. I've done quite a lot of work with women's aid and so on. And it just struck me that, women have different needs as we're aging to men, which is fine. So in today's session, what I want to do, I'm just going to alter my screen. What I want to do, the purpose of this workshop, which I always make these immense sort of promises, like, it's going to be full of fun and interactive, and we are going to be interactive. And what I want to go through with this, what I'd like you to leave with, if we can manage it, is to have a real concept of the difference between getting older and aging. To have some questioning in your heads, using some very simple NLP tools as well there, around the myths about aging, because I see part of a lot of women's struggle with aging is about myths, really, and pressure from cultural expectations. Just a small exploration of how our beliefs affect our aging process. And if you know anything about NLP, which I'm imagining that many of you do, then we know that we can change our beliefs. A belief is just a thought, and a thought can be changed. So then we're going to look at how to let go of some things in order to be able to create and craft your own notion of how you would like to age, as far as we can influence it. And the term that you'll hear me use quite a lot is co-author, because I'm not a person who's, kind of from the secret that whatever we think and vibe out there, it will all happen. I'm very much a mix of, we are a cocktail. Our bodies and our minds are a cocktail of genetics, environment, habits, and our thoughts, and what we do to ourselves. So I believe we can influence our aging process. And so hence I use the word co-authoring. And we'll have a little focus on your future possibilities. And I've sent a couple of free resources. There's some more I could have put on there as well, which I will at the end of this session. So the first thing I'd like to say is, does anybody have any questions? Anything anybody else would like to say? I can't see everybody on my screen. I don't know why I haven't got us all, and I'd quite like to. No, I can't see it. So I just seem to get some people and not others. So I'll just move along. So I've said hello to Kate. I'm just going to move along. Kate's got a cup of tea or coffee. I'm quite envious of that. I wish I'd done that. There's Helen. Hello, Helen. Hello, Susan. Isabella, Christina, Anna, Victoria, Steph, hello, and Wendy, Debbie, Lucy, Halle, is that right? Or is that Helen? Yes, yeah, okay. Anna, Elizabeth, Alison, Yvette, and Lisa, Pat, Sasha, Anne's iPhone. Hello, Anne's iPhone. Ritu, Evelyn, Sean, Samina. Okay, we have a lovely mix of people here. So the first thing I'm going to do is to get you to speak to somebody else. And I'm going to put you into breakout rooms with 2 or 3 other people, just for a few minutes. And I'm going to invite you to tell each other, what would you really like to get out of this experience? What would you like to go away with more of, or something different? So I'm going to create, how many people have we got, Cash, altogether? I didn't count as I went through there.
You've got 26, 27 with Karen,
Okay.
excluding yourself and me, so 29 in total.
Okay, so I'm going to put you into 9 breakout rooms of 3. I'm assuming everybody's active at this point. I'd just like you to talk to each other, say hello, who you are, and what would you like to go away with more of from this session? Because I'm always flexible to responding to you. So I'm going to put you in. I'm opening all rooms. Enjoy. All right, it's going to make bigger. So do you all were you able to discover something that you want from this workshop that's quite specific?
Mm-hmm.
And did any of you find that there were commonalities between you, or, find other people's answers informative to you? Any small comments before we proceed?
I think in our little 3, there were 2 of us who were very curious about being here and what your approach would bring to us. And one of us was also very, well, I suppose I didn't say this, but 2 of us were also looking to work with some of the issues, some of the tools that you brought.
Okay.
Appreciating the opportunity to just have the space to work with them for myself, speaking for myself, but one of us was very specific about how to use the tools.
Okay, how to use the tools. Okay.
Contact. But all 3 of us have that commonality of curiosity and openness to what you were going to take us through.
Going to do. Yes, me too. I'm also curious as to what I'm going to do. Okay, so you've had the opportunity to say hello to at least 1 or 2 other people. So I tend to use NLP skills with mindful practice because I find it completely compatible. If you think about, any of you who know anything about NLP will know that much of the invitation is to pay attention to what's happening right now, and to make changes if you want to right now. And in mindful practice and in meditation practice, so I came to meditation really quite later in my life, probably from about 60 onwards, as a regular practice, is also very much about right now. We know that anxiety is very often about the future, about things that have not yet occurred. And a lot of depression is associated with things that have happened in the past. So this present time is very much the link between the 2. So we've said that, kind of deeper understanding will be part of this. So I want to distinguish, first of all, between getting older and aging. And I'd like to say that I regard it as a privilege to be getting older, because the alternative would have been death. And so life is not always, a completely smooth, hip happy track. I'm not one of those people thinking positive psychology means that you always have to be rah-rah. I believe it's more about being authentic and experiencing, and then choosing how we want to be. So getting older is the impact on us of the passage of time, while aging I use to refer to how we get older, how we respond to that opportunity that we're given. And I believe that our responses are created through our beliefs, our attitudes, our habits, and our values, even when whatever is going on for us. And thankfully, we can exert some influence over those. So I begin really from a position of some gratitude, and gratitude I regard as an active process. So again, if you think of neuro-linguistic programming, we can program, choose to be grateful in a way that is noticeable to other people as well as to us. You know, so we can feel grateful, or we can be grateful and express our gratitude to people. So I think the notion of mindful aging is empowering. We know that many women fear older age. And this isn't surprising. In certainly Western culture is the culture that I know most about. So please bring in other perspectives if you have them. Please feel free to, you know, ask a question, raise your hand. Again, I've reduced my screen for various reasons. So if I don't see you with your hand up, maybe Cash, you might, and sort of let people come in.
I would also encourage people to use the raise hand icon on on where it says raise hand across the bottom of the screen. That puts you to the top of the list on the participants, and we can see you easily then.
Okay, thanks. That would be really helpful. Thank you. So we've got two things going on. We have quite a lot of mythology. You know, fairy tales? Anybody ever read a fairy tale? Anybody ever found, you know, an older woman in a fairy tale who's really kind and enjoying her aging face? And you know, so in fairy tales, and I was talking about this with Cash earlier, over time, how older women, and I deliberately use the word crone, which I know can be contentious, but I use it because I feel there's a reclaim that needs to go on. That as we get older, and maybe we get wartier, and maybe we get wrinklier, but I believe we get a certain wisdom, which is very enjoyable. But in mythology, the old wise woman has been turned into a hag. So you've got that, and hag is one of those words that's really quite derogatory. In consumer culture, we are encouraged to do something quite amazing, which is to age without aging. You know, clever trick if we can do it, to not have a wrinkle, to look as young as we did when we were 20, and to do this impossible task. And it's huge business, isn't it? Massive, massive business. My son said to me, I don't invest in stocks and shares and stuff like that. I don't do it. But my son said to me when he was about 10, Mom, you should invest in the anti-aging business. And I think he had a point. But there you go. So we have, and we're constantly sold promises of how to look young, being able to look young. So it's quite a cultural anti-aging stance that we have. When I wrote the program that I do on Insight Timer, and sometimes now on another app called Guided by Keziah, I did lots of research, and there's some great research with young women on an American campus, well, several American campuses, and asked them to share their expectations of what it would be like when they were older women. And about 80% of them had this expectation that it would be awful. And I thought, you know, fancy going through your lives expecting that your later years are going to be awful. So you have all this around us about what it is to be old. Of course, language is important, isn't it, in all sorts of areas. And it's one of the things I love about neurolinguistics, which I believe goes deeply into the body and the soul, if you like. But the whole notion of anti-aging invites us to fight with ourselves internally, because we will age if we're fortunate. We're already older than we were 20 minutes ago. And so why be invited to have this inner fight and fight our natural process? So I take the kind of Baba Yaga cultural haggy witch. And I think, you know, she's really quite a very interesting figure. And it's a challenge, isn't it? I say all this, you know, there are days I look in the mirror and I think, oh, you know, look at that neck, or kind of look at this. And it's a choice at that point as to whether that is important or not. Or if it is important, what am I going to say to myself about how important it is? And there are quite a few free resources. They're currently, I'm not very good at keeping a website up. I wish I was, but I'm not. So on my profile on the Insight Timer app, which I think I've given you, there are quite a few free meditations like the woman in the mirror, or rocking the crone, aging with courage, aging with wisdom. And it is that, you know, what is our own perception of ourselves? Because that becomes the most important thing. And often going to third position is quite a nice thing to do. Does everybody, do you know what I mean by third position? So to be, you know, kind of really take a step away from yourself and look at yourself in a more holistic way. And to use your visual senses to look at other women who you admire. I was watching an actress in Britain that I admire is Helen Mirren. She's and you know, Judi Dench was also somebody we had, and these great women in the public eye who are just themselves. They obviously have very good care of their bodies, but they allow themselves to age. And I just think, isn't that great? Because what we're looking at is spirit, not face. So changes happen throughout our life cycle, and we can always look after ourselves kindly if we choose. Affirmations are something I've also recently released in those kind of free resources, because at first I was not sure, but then I think in NLP terms, it is this: what are you saying to yourself? And again, there is research that affirmations, when you speak to yourself as you instead of I, have a more powerful impact than if you say I. So how many of you speak to yourselves on a daily basis? Anybody talk to themselves, or is it just me? Great, that's so reassuring. And do you ever, you know, speak to yourself as if you're speaking to you, like, oh, Janice, how stupid, or, you know, oh, come on, or, you know, stuff like this. And there's research which I think was done in the context of sport, of, you know, kind of dummy group who had affirmations every day in terms of, I can do this, I will go faster, I will be successful, and the group who had their affirmations in terms of second position, to you. And if you affirm yourself in second position, their results were outstandingly more than the rest. And I think the great and wonderful Louise Hay knew this, because she did lots of work with mirror. And I don't know if you know her work, where she would, you know, look into the mirror to talk to yourself. So you could be saying, Susan, you are a strong woman. You know, Kate, you are a beautiful woman. Wendy, you are a resilient woman. You know, whatever it is that you want to be more of, to tell yourself that from a second position has quite a powerful effect. So let's be kind to ourselves, first of all, in self-talk, and catch yourself. I tell a story that I can remember once getting out of my car with, I got some shopping, and suddenly my knee was hurting, and I took a slight stumble. I didn't fall, but I took a stumble, and instantly somebody around me said, it's because you're getting old. I thought, well, that's interesting, because I've stumbled before. You know, that knee is weak. Because when I was about 40, I did amazing things on a with a dog, sort of trying to get over a fence in the rain, and that's when I first twisted that knee. But it's interesting what we attribute to aging, and what are things that might have happened at other points in our lives. And we can choose if it's useful to us to attribute to aging, which it sometimes is. I'm a bit older now than I was. I find myself not wanting to, you know, do certain things that I used to want to do when I was younger. There's other things that, you know, yes, happen throughout life. So when we embrace the process of aging, I think the acceptance, we can feel vital and energetic. And one quick hack is, again, it's all language. So if we tell ourselves, it's all downhill from here. Guess what? It'll all be downhill from here, unless you see downhill as a wonderful thing to happen, because it's easier to go downhill than uphill. But if you're using it as a derogatory thing, then I would suggest you change it. I hate my face, these wrinkles are awful. Then you're fighting, as opposed to, well, I do have quite a frown line. I have quite a frown line here. And I know I have that because I've been quite an intense person throughout my life in different ways. And that's okay. Some really good things have come from being that intense person. I've had concerns and worries about my children, and I know that shows in my face. But isn't it great? My children are okay in their own contexts. And so isn't it nice that I love them enough to worry about them? And that sounds quite superficial, and I don't mean it that way, but it's really about how we talk to ourselves will have huge impact. And to interrogate ourselves. So again, one of the resources I forgot to put down is on the Insight Timer app. I've got 3 programs. They're not the best recording quality because I did them. They were some of my first ones during lockdown, but they're on how to change your beliefs. And we can change our beliefs, because a belief is just a thought, and a thought can be changed. And we can do that at quite a deep level by interrogating our beliefs. So those are tools. I know 1 or 2 people said they particularly want the tools. If you go to my profile on Insight Timer / Dr. Jan Russell, you will find quite a few free resources. And I would recommend the beliefs program, because just to quickly go through into how we do change our beliefs, and I'm sure some of you know, it's very much about interrogating. So if I say, when we get old, we are ugly and useless, you might ask me, according to whom are we ugly and useless? Yeah. Have you ever had any experiences in which you feel quite lovely? Have you helped anybody out in the last 2 days? Have you been able to cook a meal in the last 2 days? How is this useless? In what sense is it useless? So that verbal package that John Grinder calls the very simple way of doing meta questioning is how specifically, who specifically, and what specifically. What specifically is ugly about you? How specifically are you useless? Who specifically is telling you this? And I find that quite a quick and dirty, what I'd call a quick and dirty set of tools to have to help you to take hold of yourself with compassion and to invite yourself to really answer some of the questions that are there. And so it's you can get a shift. And of course you can change beliefs in a more complex way, which we can't do here, or not more complex, but more time consuming, which is very much about playing with where and how we store our beliefs in our minds. So how do you talk to yourself about your age, and what expectations do you have? Anybody like to we'll just pause. Would anybody like to contribute anything at the moment in terms of anything that I've said that rings a bell for you, or that you think seems familiar, or that you would just like to say? Any comments at all before we move on? I'd like to take. Kate.
I'm swinging between very much feeling like it's too late to achieve anything.
Oh, okay.
To completely the other end of the spectrum, where I've just started volunteering for this amazing charity and I'm suddenly very active and really vital and really powerful, and I'm swinging between the two.
And so when you're, oh, sorry, have you got more to say?
I just want to get rid of that doubt. That's just driving me nuts.
Yeah, you don't need that anymore, do you? What
doubt every time.
So when you're in your vital place and doing your volunteering with something quite amazing, you don't have any doubts. You're not even thinking, are you? You're just doing.
Top of the world.
Top of the world. So are you able to?
That's enabled that. It's maturity and experience that's enabled that.
Yeah. And you know, maybe the doubt had a use. I always think with NLP, I can remember Richard Bandler saying we never take anything away from somebody until they have something better to replace it with. So, you know, maybe at some level your doubts were part of what, you know, finally galvanized you to go do this amazing volunteering.
True.
But you certainly don't need them anymore. And I'd imagine you could, at a simple level, just when you have the doubts, my encouragement to anybody here, you know, an answer to one person is an answer for all of us, is when we find ourselves in a position of doubt, just notice how do you do that? And it'll be you're running a program in your head, won't it? You'll be saying some things, you'll be experiencing a certain physiology. So my first encouragement there would always be to move, go and shift your physiology immediately. And imagine the physiology of when you're doing the volunteering, and it's quite an active volunteering, you said. So the physiology then certainly won't be sitting like this, will it? I imagine it would be more up and out there. And again, have a listen to the beliefs program. It might be helpful to you. Thank you, Kate, for that revelation. And I like it. It's like one of my recent recordings was about, I can't remember what it's called, rocking the Croning, everyday aging. And it's like, actually, I can be many things and I can choose today, because we don't all wake up going, hey, it's another day of aging. Fantastic. You know, we can wake up thinking, oh, I'm weary, or I'm tired, or I don't have purpose, or all of these things that can hit us. And that's okay, as long as we only allow those states to stay while they're useful to us. And then we can find ways to change states. And the reality is that it's all right to have any feelings that you have, just work out if they're useful to you or not. And if they're not, then your task is to get rid of them. All right, I'm going to move us on. In some of the programs, and I've said on that sheet, they're available on Insight Timer. If you don't want to join Insight Timer, you can contact me directly. I can send you any of the programs extremely reasonably. So, yeah. So there's a lot in here, and the expectations are very important. What we say to each other, and of course our life stages, if we conceptualize them psychologically, have certain frames that do impact us. I quite liked, I studied the work of Erik Erikson some time ago. Does anybody know his work? He talked about, he was the first psychologist really to talk about, you know, life stages and critical points in our lives. And Kate, I don't know what your age is now or what critical point, but often we come to parts, and again, it is often to do with our physiology. We are people who have menstruation and menopause, and they do mark our lives quite strongly because they're physiological shifts as well as mental shifts. And Erikson predicted these critical stages of life. And in his work, he did his work in the 50s, and his research was into young men who had been involved in the war. So he did say he expected his work to be revamped and added to and changed. But we have like a map of predictable crises. And he doesn't mean a crisis doesn't have to be hair-pulling, terrible. It's a critical point because it's a point of change. And in every critical point, there is an opportunity. It's neither negative nor positive. It's more a kind of punctuation mark in our lives. And this happens with women aging. And I do get in the classrooms for my workshops that I do on Insight Timer, I do get lots of people who come in saying about that, you know, they experience menopause, for example, very differently. So some women, you know, shout from the rooftops that this is great, no more periods, fantastic. And other women start to feel bereft of the fertility that it brought. And of course, women experience different responses to the physiological changes that come with menopause. Gail Sheehy is another psychologist who came along after Erikson and suggested that as time has gone on, you know, I don't know about you, but I feel as if I present very differently from, say, my mother at the same age as me now. I don't have my mother anymore. I would love to have a conversation with her now when she was the same age as I am now. I think it would be really interesting. And I do write sometimes, and I'm kind of just imagining that in a piece of writing. But it's how we define ourselves. So we tend to live longer. You know, if we're fortunate and our health is reasonable, we are likely to live longer perhaps than the generations before us. So he sees the kind of 50s into 60s and 70s as a second adulthood, as a real opportunity to define your life differently, you know, to live a different life from the life you lived when you were 30 or 20. And as something quite positive. And one of the things that happens is we tend to look at the aging process as a time. Well, Erickson looked at it as a time of decline, and Sheehy's looking at it as a time of generative. So what kind of resources? One of the things in Rocking the Crone is a guided journey on it's kind of finding what are the hidden resources within, because presupposition that you will probably all know is at any time in our life, we probably do the best we can from the resources we have available to us at that time. Any of you who are parents might look back and think you could have done something differently at some point with your children. I certainly thought that. And yet, you know, no, I couldn't. At that time, you couldn't. So it's kind of changing your mindset into seeing this forward movement of aging as generative. What kind of things would I like to be in my older age? If I'm not so good at some aspects of memory, like the thing I find frustrating is that I lose names. You know, I have to think harder to get names. That seems to be quite common. And it's a part of the brain that, you know, kind of seems to change with age. At the same time, I'm much better at executive decision making. And again, kind of research suggests that that is one of the benefits of the aging mind. We know with meditations, you can carve a different path in your your sort of neurology. So that if you're telling yourself every day, oh, I'm hopeless, I'm losing all these names, I'm kind of losing my mind, you could also be meditating on moving forward into using your mind in different ways. And I think of meditation and carving different neural pathways, like walking through a field. You know, you walk through a field, if you tread the same path every day, that part of the grass will flatten. If you veer off, as you start to find yourself approaching anything that's not helpful, veer off towards something much more attractive. And if you do that for, you know, 8 weeks, some meditation that has some positive outcome for you, you will change the neurology, you will change the neural paths, which I find fascinating. I think it's brilliant. So, and there may be some things as well that we used to be able to do that we can't. And often this comes in small ways. So it isn't that suddenly I'm old and my body can't do anything, but you might find yourself making that noise when you get up from the chair. You know, you might be and you might find that, you know, when you kneel and get up, you're not quite as mobile. So often these kind of changes come in teeny ways. And we can take the bull by the horns, as it were, and we can support ourselves to be as able as we can and to accept. I think self-acceptance is huge, that I am now living a different life. Susan, you talked about the tools, and I think these kind of belief changes and meta questioning of the thoughts that you find not helpful are really quite simple places to start. So there's a lot in here. I'm going to cut some because I'd like you to, yeah. So we can see our critical stages as losing something or as bringing new opportunities. And one of the things I do believe is that however up or down we might feel, we do have choices. We can make choices. And sometimes it takes us a little while to move out of that, out of the doubt that Kate expressed, or out of the uncertainties that anybody else might feel. Just stay there long enough to find out what the message is. If you were outside yourself looking in, what would you see when you're feeling not so good? And how would you look if you suddenly had a revelation into something better? Okay, so I thought I would break you off again. I'm of a generation, by the way, and I don't know whether any of you are, where we were super women, and I think that's been passed on, where we put our knickers over our tights and we brought the kids up and we did jobs, and everything was possible. And then about 10 years ago, I decided that unitasking was so much more enjoyable than multitasking. And so we go on. It's good to look at role models. I've been very fortunate to have older women in my life that I've met either personally or professionally. My first NLP teacher was a woman called Beryl Lindley, who I'm out of touch with at the moment, and I don't know how that's happened. I'm not sure what she's doing, but I invited her to come back to work with me about 12, 13 years ago. I was running a master's NLP training, and I invited her to come and co-train with me. And at that point, I must have been 60 and she was 75. So I took her out for dinner to, kind of catch up with her and so on. And she'd eaten, and we'd sort of caught up on various things. And she went, "So I want to share my long-term plans." And I just loved that. It's I want to share my long-term plans. And the thing about time, and again, I explore this, is it's part true and it's part myth that time gets shorter as we get older. And in a sense, that's true. I'm fairly confident there are less years ahead of me than there are behind, unless I live to be 140, which is currently unlikely, although I'm working at it. Yet each moment that I or you have is just as long as every moment you've ever had at any other point in your life. And the more you bring yourself into your moments of now, the more you have time. So our aging selves are a work in process. And of course, there may be challenges. We have been getting older all our lives. And I don't know about you, but there's a perspective to be had that personally, I had some of my greatest challenges in my early 40s for various reasons. And before that, in my childhood. So it doesn't have to be worse as you get older. So for somebody like me, it can be much better than at certain points when I was younger. And through having challenges in your life when you're younger, you build resilience. So if we fear getting older, then that fear will rob us of lived experience. If we embrace aging as a process to collaborate with, if we can look forward to each day just as much as any other, and continue to plan and anticipate with a level of vitality and acceptance, we will go well. And there's no reason why we cannot age with grace and calibration. So I thought we'd end this kind of section, if you like. I'm just going to invite you to join me in a few words in a small, sort of very light meditation. Before I do that, do you have any questions or comments that you would like to make, or questions for me that's something you'd like from me that isn't here yet?
Hi,
Anybody?
Jack.
Oh,
Hello.
hello. Hi.
Hello there. I just wanted to say thank you so much for this. And I did actually dip into the 3 little words and Rocking the Crone, the Woman in the Mirror, and the 21 affirmations. And I'm absolutely on your page. On one of the affirmations there, I can feel the beat of just that one alone is so powerful. So yeah, thank you very much. And all of what you're saying here is, for me, is a privilege to age. It really is. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Yes, those affirmations are interesting, aren't they? That it is just what we say to ourselves. And most people find when you listen to a series of affirmations, there'll be one or two that kind of become your favorite mantra and that are very useful. And yes, the privilege to age. And any other comments, any different perceptions or any different questions? Okay, so I'm going to invite you to relax, perhaps 5 or 10 times as much as you are now, 5%, 10% more. And I'm going to invite you to just be that little bit more comfortable. You can turn your screen off if you want to, if you don't want to be seen. Please come back afterwards if you do turn your screen off. It's great to see all your faces here. This is so lovely. And just take a moment to come into your breathing, however you like to do that. You know, you don't have to do anything exceptionally different. Just notice your breath and just let your shoulders relax a little bit. And perhaps I sometimes think when we exhale, you can just exhale anything you don't want to be here with you right now. Anything not useful, just blow it away. Just letting it go or letting it pass. And I would like you to quietly identify 3 great qualities that you have now at the age that you are. 3 qualities, being as if you were your own best friend looking in. What 3 qualities do you have that are really, really beneficial to you and part of you? And just allow anything that comes. It may be easy to find things. You may find you need to wait for them to come in. It's fine. There's no prizes or punishments. It's just an invitation. And I'm going to invite you to recall, as easily as it may come now, 3 memorable places you've been to in your lifetime, which have brought you joy and happy memories. 3 places. Just notice how they come to you. You might have visualization. You might be hearing sounds. And notice any sensations that you feel in your physiology. Just enjoy. These are happy memories. And invite you to bring to mind three things that you've done for others with other people that have brought you satisfaction, perhaps a sense of peace. And finally, 3 learnings that you've had that have been really beneficial to you. And you know, learnings come in many ways. It can be life experience, it can be formal learnings. Anything that you have, skills that you've learned, attitudes that you've developed, experiences that you've had that benefited you. And just let these questions stay with you, the answers to these questions as they bubble up. And it doesn't matter if you haven't got 3 answers for everything yet. And whatever you do have from that experience, just allow it. And you may find that over the next day or two, the questions resound a little bit. Because all of those questions bring to you the resources that you have within you and to take forward into where you want to be next. So is everybody with us? If you'd just like to come back to see who's actively here. Thank you. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you. Hala, I want to know how to pronounce your name. Am I pronouncing your name properly? Can you unmute? I can't hear you.
Oh,
You must
yes,
have...
there we go.
Oh.
Sorry. It's Hallie.
Hallie, thank you very much.
That's
Thank you.
okay.
I was looking at that thinking I'm not pronouncing that properly. Thank you, Hallie. All right, so now I'm going to invite you to join into breakout rooms again. How many people have we still got here? We've got about 20, I think. Have we got more than 20, Cash? Go to the next page. Oh, yes. Okay. So I'm going to put you, how many breakout rooms? I'm going to do, sorry, my counting's not very good on this. Do you know how many people are still here, Cash? Do you have a number? I think everybody, or I can't hear you.
24.
Okay, 24. I'm going to put you into 6 breakout rooms then, thank you. And I'm just going to invite you to share your experience of that last exercise as much as you want to for about 5 minutes so that you have an opportunity again to connect with different people. I'm doing this completely randomly, so you may or may not be with people you've already spoken to, and I'd invite you to share what you would like to, either about the experience that you've just done and where you're at. So I'm opening the rooms now and I'll time 5 minutes. Thank you very much. You okay, Lisa? Can you see your invitation?
I think some people, yeah, here we go.
And Evelyn, can you see your invitation? Perhaps Evelyn's nipped off. It's fine.
Yeah, everyone's gone. And everyone's got at least one other person in their room. Most have got 2 other people in their room.
Good, that's great. That's great. Jeff Taylor's entered the waiting room. Who's Jeff Taylor?
Taylor. Let's admit Jeff.
Hello, Jeff. Are you Jeff or somebody else? I'm wondering. Oh, you're Jeff Taylor. Hello. Jeff, I can't hear you. I'm looking at the chat.
Yeah, we're
So
Well-
Yvette's had to leave after the meditation. Pat's left. Let's catch up on that chat. Yeah, self-taught metaposition.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Hello and welcome.
Okay, Dr. Jan, this is Lisa Taylor.
Oh, hello, Lisa. Now I recognize that name.
So it came up as my husband because I was on my phone trying to figure out how to Zoom, and I almost missed it because it's very early here in the US.
I'm
And
in the US.
oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I got really confused on the timing because it came up that it was going to be at 12:30. And so I
Yeah.
rolled out of bed and I didn't want to put my face on here because I just got up. But so I'm off my phone and on my husband's computer.
Okay. Okay. Well, it's very, very nice to see you because I
Thank
recognize
you.
your name, obviously.
You see me?
Yeah.
I'm almost afraid of that.
So have you just got in?
Yes.
Okay. So we've already done half of the session.
Yes, I was in though. I heard a big portion of the last.
Good.
Yes, yes. And I joined a breakout and then my husband fixed the computer for me. So
Okay, lovely. Okay. That's good. That's good. So I'm going to get people back in about another 2 minutes, and then we're going to move to another
Okay.
section with a few more tools going on.
okay.
So how are you doing so far?
I'm doing okay. I mean, I'm sorry that I'm once again late to the game.
Doesn't matter. You're
Yeah.
always welcome at any time.
Where are you in the US right now?
I'm in Miami.
Oh, fun. Yeah,
Yes.
great.
It's for something at work, so it's quite a brief trip. It's involving lots of jet lag.
Oh my goodness, I bet. Yeah. Yeah, I bet it is. Golly. Well, it's
But that's okay. You know, so what really? You just catch it up, don't you? And
Yeah.
it's a great group of people. I like my work. I don't work so much these days. I tend to choose the things that I like to do.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's where I'm trying to get there. I'm getting there,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Well, it is a bit of a process, isn't it? We
Yeah.
have to step by step and kind of juggle the different values which are important to us.
Yeah. Well, I'm just honored that you're doing this. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm chuffed that you're here. That's a very English word, chuffed. Do you use that in America? I'm
No,
pleased that you're here.
but I am going to be going. I'm going to be going to Europe for the first time next September. So I'm excited.
Said that, yes, yes. I'm going to do a Rocking the Crone retreat event as well. And it's quite difficult to get right because a lot of people on Insight Time are in the States, and it's a long way to come for a 4-day retreat. But I think I might go for it anyway. Or I think somebody said in one of the chats, if you ship me over to America, I'll do one over there.
So when are you gonna be doing that?
In the autumn. I don't know. I haven't got the date yet, but yeah.
So it'll be in person?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yes.
Golly, that's
That
exciting.
would be nice. Yeah. All right. I think we've had our 5, haven't we, Cash? Here, Cash
Okay, I think so.
Cash is part of the ANLP. What would you call yourself?
Hi, Cash.
Hip team, really.
Hi, Lisa. The support team for you, Jen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Good. Thank
Right.
you.
I'm going to close the rooms and get everybody
Okay.
back. And then I'm
Okay.
going to move to a different part. It's quite challenging to know what to put in here because I always want to say and do so much, and it's trying to get it right and as to what you can do with people in a larger group on Zoom.
What I've heard so far has been very good.
Good, thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's great, thank you. Okay, have I finished? Have I called them back? I think so.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a good sign though that they're not rushing back too quickly.
Mhm.
Okay. 6 seconds. Countdown. Oh, it's 8:30. Good grief. 1:30, I mean, or depending where you're. Okay. So you've all come back. Any comments you want to share I've realised time is going very quickly, as it does often. I may not do everything that I thought I could do in the time.
There it goes.
Any comments about your conversations? We have Wendy's hand is up.
Hi, yeah, I would like to say that, and I don't think the other two will mind me saying so either in the group, that the main question we actually remembered and had feelings about was the one of the, the fun place. I went straight off to the castle where I got married. I went to Cornwall and I went to the hospital where my daughter was born. And all three of us was like, yes, that's the part I remember. So it was a beautiful thing. Thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Excellent. That sounds good. Any other comments or experiences?
Christina's got her hand raised.
Oh, okay, Christina. Yes. Thanks.
Yeah. What struck me was how much do I really know myself? These questions helped me pinpoint certain things. And I think as we go through life, we transition, we change.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time we don't reflect on where we need to be in the present moment.
Yeah.
And redoing something like this brings you back to what your values are, what's really important to you, and what to work on in terms of going on from that, so it's like a springboard. It was a great revelation, I thought. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, Christina, that's wonderful. And it's the intention there as well, really, is to, sometimes we forget what we've got inside, kind of ready to, as you say, springboard us into the future. So I'm glad you experienced that in that way. Thank you for sharing that too. I appreciate it. Anybody else? Okay, then we will move on. So I wanted to move to some of the shoulds of life. Anybody who works a lot with NLP will know shoulds is something that we interrogate quite a lot to discover whether the shoulds in our life are things we really want there or not. So this is about letting go a little bit, because I think sometimes the doubts that we have or the apprehensions that we have, or one of the things I come across with people who come into the Insight Timer classroom is the almost like feeling obligation to other people over and above our own well-being. And while as certainly one of my values is compassion, and I'd imagine that is also common to many, if not all of you in the group, then it's a very fine line sometimes to distinguish between being available to others in a compassionate way and to be not doing that at our own expense. There's that fine line of crossover, isn't there, sometimes? And one of the things I know some of the older women in my other group say is that they would like to really, somebody said to me, for example, she prompted me to do a whole session on procrastination, really, because she was saying, why is it that I know I'm getting older? I have arthritis. The arthritis will get worse. I'm an artist and I want to do more art and I'm not doing it. And her own answer to her own question was because of all these things that she feels she must do for the other people around her. And when we love people in particular, and I think this is quite a gender thing, I think women find it harder to get that balance of being able to do things for yourself and that's okay. So it's like creating it's almost like you need to create a belief that you can have the rest of your life that you really want within the circumstances and contexts that you live. And certain messages that you hang on to can result in stuckness of not being able to shift forward. And, do you believe that you deserve a good life? Do you believe that you deserve a crone hood, if you will, without chains on it, that you can allow it? Do you believe that you can access the strengths, the power of those when we go to the good places in our mind, the energizing places in our mind? And it seems to me that in here, it's just worth having a little look, and it will be a little look the mantle of guilt, which is often present for women. Would you agree with that? Any kind of nods or shakes? And just think about stripping it away. And again, we're going to end with a guided practice, which means I need to move along quite quickly. And women can feel guilty about all kinds of things. I've never known a man say when a visitor comes to the house, "Oh, I'm sorry, I haven't tidied up." But I've known lots of women say that. I don't know. And I think women can, if things happen with our children that aren't quite the best or aren't quite right, women are really good at feeling guilty about that. Women can feel guilty for not looking after the parents properly, or there's all sorts of things women feel guilty for. What do you feel guilty about? You know, kind of guilt is a bit insidious, isn't it? It creeps into our mentality, to the point of almost feeling guilty for taking up space. I've been walking to rooms apologizing for their entrance. "Oh, sorry, you know, sorry, I'm sorry," and it's almost like we can apologize too much. And spend too much time on things that are not so important, as opposed to finding, when you're born, as a baby and a toddler, if you're in a loving environment, you're not really apologetic about who you are. You're not really feeling you can't go exploring and having that lovely attitude of curiosity that I know people said they've come into this room with. And I think the experience of guilt comes from an ingrained ethic of feeling responsible, as if there's some obligation to always put others first. It's not nice to put yourself first. So it's a strange old thing, really. Sorry, can you wait till 9? Please? Thank you. Thank you very much. Most of us don't intend for our friends and family to feel guilty as they rock up and walk into our house. You know, we don't want to make people feel guilty because they haven't done the housework or because they're doing something for themselves. We don't want to be on the other end of that. So we have to think about putting ourselves on the other end of our own apologetic behavior. And I'm talking in some ways about the small stuff, the stuff like the housework, but I think often there is big stuff that we feel guilty for, things that we cannot possibly change. If we have illness, if people we love have illness, I know somebody who very, very sadly carries a huge amount of guilt because she lost a child. And it's her belief that as a mother, you know, she should not have allowed that to happen, whereas actually the cause was way beyond her control. So we have irrational guilt that come from very strong feelings. And as anything else, it can serve a purpose. You know, I've felt guilt about things that I've been able to shift into something else that's had some value for me. Sometimes it doesn't serve a purpose. And then we go to, if nothing else, what I would say to you is think about your shoulds, because when we're trying to find this space to age as we want to co-author it, we do need to find the space. We need to notice our shoulds as we go through life. You know, how many shoulds have you felt in the last hour, even in the last 3 days? How many things have you felt you should do, or should be able to feel differently, or should be able to change? Anybody felt any shoulds? Yeah. And a should, you know, the word exists because it can be useful. You know, I should clean my shoes if I want to. If I want to look smart, that's fine. But I should, in other contexts, are not always helpful. So it's very useful to write down your shoulds, and to change them to coulds, a very simple change. So I think with your shoulds, you can change them to coulds and read it out loud. There's that little exercise, isn't there? I should put others first. I could put others first. I might put others first. I choose to put others first. I want to put others first. You know, try them out, because sometimes I put others first when I choose to, because at that point their need is greater than mine and it's not depleting me. Yeah. And interrogate your shoulds. Again, we go to meta questioning. Who says we should? Who is saying that? What specifically is it that we should do? How specifically do I come to believe that I should always do this and cannot do that? And again, that program that I've referred to, which has no cost, is helpful to interrogating your own self-imposed limits through shoulds. And one of the things I think is about being at cause. One of the presuppositions in NLP is very much about putting ourselves at cause of our own behavior, and in letting go of responsibility of others at appropriate points, we're also allowing them to be at cause of their own behaviors. You know, we joke now in my family, I'll say something, oh, and remember to, and I'm thinking, oh no, actually you're 40, you can think for yourself, can't you? It's okay. You know, you have to let people be equal to you, and unless they are not, you know, unless their capability is not, which is different. But it's about helping people, imagining that they can be as resourceful as we can, that we're very equal in partnership. And I think sometimes the responsibility bit is absolutely appropriate. There are times when we are responsible for other people who we care for. There's nothing wrong with that. Indeed, it's necessary. Whether we need to be the only person is another question. And whether we need to be responsible for people who do not have particular needs that we have to cater for, that's when it becomes as if we're superior. So there's a lot in there, and I'm slightly rushing because I've designed this to have too much in. So my recommendations are the meta questions. And sometimes, you know, we have regrets and we can solve regrets. We can express regret and we can think, what have I learned from that? And how will I do it differently? Once again, coming to doing the best that you can. Any questions? Because I'm going to end with another small guided practice, which is quite, it isn't a particular technique of NLP, but it's rife with NLPism. Any questions? Are you willing to do another reflection? Yes. Okay, I'm taking that as a yes. And again, I would invite you to be comfortable, 5 or 10% more comfortable than you are now. And again, this is one of the things that I really got from learning neuro-linguistic programming that has stayed with me hugely is the whole thing that we are an integrated circuitry, that our bodies and our minds are absolutely integrated. And so changing and adjusting physiology, tiny thing as it is, makes a big difference to our receptiveness and our possibilities. So I'm going to ask you to be that little bit more comfortable and do whatever you need to do that, and to focus just on your breathing. And again, it doesn't matter how easily or not this comes to mind. Some people will find it easier than others. It doesn't matter. Just allow it to flow through you, with you, and notice what happens. So with breathing, I'd like you to imagine that you are sitting on or lying on the banks of a river, and create this as a scenario that is beautiful to you. And if it comes out slightly differently than that, it's fine. And I'm going to invite you to imagine the flow of the water of the river that you have. And to notice, if you will, the colours, the sounds, and to create a resourceful place for yourself. And as you look to your left along that river, I'd like you to notice 3 vessels. So 3 vessels on water. And they can be yachts, they can be rafts, they can be whatever vessel you would like it to be. 3 vessels, which are moving very, very slowly in your direction. And you can create them as flexibly as you want to during this practice. And the first vessel is a vessel full of shoulds. And as it gets nearer, you might notice signs and messages of what you tell yourself, things that you've told yourself that you should do, that might have already been in your head today, or yesterday, or for a lifetime. And they might have a shape or a form to them. They might represent themselves in different ways. And you're just going to watch them as that vessel slowly passes you, comes in front of you. You just give a gentle nod in that direction. And perhaps a gentle acknowledgement of, thanks for those. And just notice which ones you'd like to let completely go. And which ones might be useful to you in your self-talk as an aging woman. And it's not important how many you're able to think of, whether these come easily to mind or not. Just process whatever's going on for you and trust that your unconscious will begin to become more aware of these shoulds that you want and those that you don't. As you notice the vessel move along from your left side before you to your right side, further and further along the river. And now turn your attention to your left. Make yourself more comfortable if you want to. Whatever you want to do, just do. You're all adults. Turn your attention to your left and notice the second vessel approaching you. And this vessel is full of people that you know and care for and love, have relationships with. There may be people that you have felt responsible for, do feel responsible for. Just notice them being safely carried along. Just notice them having their lives. Making their decisions as best as they can. Always having some choice about their behaviours, and people around them perhaps who care for them too. And as that vessel passes, moving from your left to your right, notice your responses as you let them pass. Maybe give them a wave, blow them a kiss, without any need to do anything else in this moment. And as you turn your attention again to your left, to your third vessel, this is your vessel. This is the vessel of your now and your future. And it can look and be exactly as you want it to be. It brings with it all your strengths, your compassion, all of those qualities that you have. And it's the vessel that will take you into your future. You can create it exactly as you want it to be. You can see other people on it if you want to. You might not want other people on it, or you might want them coming and going. Notice the sounds that it might be making. Let it get nearer and nearer till it's right in front of you, in your now. And let it be invitational and let it be open. You may even find yourself wanting to get into it right now. You might want to moor it, let it stay a while you choose how you deck it out. To support you to move forward toward your aging future. And again, it doesn't matter how clear this is or not. Just enjoy knowing that there is a vessel of endless possibility for you, which can take the form that you choose as you co-author your aging process. So we're going to end right here. And again, I'm going to invite any comments or thoughts that you have. I'm just going to check the chat as well. I think various people have added things in. Synchronicity. Lucy says she's just finished a wonderful book, The Life Impossible by Matt Haig, who writes from the point of view of a 72-year-old female. Well, that looks good. Nice. Okay. Thank you for being here. Are there any comments that you would like to make or questions that you have before we close? Lucy? You're waving. Did you want to say something? You have to unmute yourself. Can I unmute you? Let's see.
Yeah, everyone's able to unmute themselves.
Yeah. Can you find your button?
Yeah. Oh, there we are.
Yes, great.
Pressing it too fast and the sign was coming up. Thanks a million, Jan. That was actually coincidental in so many ways. I've just come back from a week with my 85-year-old mother.
Okay, how lovely.
And she is amazing. But loads of time for me to reflect on where I'm at. In my head, I'm still 25. And, you know, but I was saying to some of them in the breakout room how we move into other generations, almost without realizing it, that level kind of moves up. And just the idea of telling our adult children, have you got a coat? It's raining outside. Or we're still telling my husband, and feeling responsible for everybody's well-being. And here in Ireland, we call that the Irish mammy, and forgetting that the Irish mammy has to step back and allow our adults to be adults. But there's a fine line between caring too much and between allowing them being independent and feeling guilty then when we don't do enough. But loads of things hitting home there today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucy. What a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. I'll have a look at that book as well. Yes. All right, so I think I'm just going to thank you all for being here. It's always a privilege to have people come and join up and to join in. I'm trusting there is some benefit for you and perhaps some questions addressed. There's so much more we could do, isn't there? And it's just not possible in this time. So I think you all have my details. If you want to email me about anything, I will reply to you on the back of this. And I wish you all quite genuinely, I'm an old hippie, I do quite genuinely wish you love and peace in your life. And thank you very much.
Just going to hand back to Karen now.
Thank you, Jen. A wonderful session full of insights, very appreciative. So thank you, Jen.
You're very welcome.
Hugely beneficial for those of us that are transitioning from one period of life to another. So thank you very much. Thank you everyone for attending, and we will see you on the next one.
Thank you for inviting me to do this. I've enjoyed it. Bye.